So welcome to All Things Irish and Rock and Roll. We're joined here today by the legendary, legendary.
I don't know about that.
Denis Doran.
In a good way, I hope.
Yeah. So welcome, Denis. So, Denis.
Thank you, Brendan.
Again, I'm gonna we ask everybody really as a kind of a relaxing intro. What made you get into the rock and roll business?
Can I just say something before we start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I've watched a number of your recent and previous interviews, particularly with legends, as far as I'm concerned, in the music business.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute pleasure and honour to be here.
Oh, that's
particularly walking in the footsteps of those gentlemen and former players and brilliant people that I looked up to in my very early days when I was hanging around the incapable street, as they used to call it.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Like that. So thanks so much for that.
You're very welcome, you're very welcome.
Yeah. But how I got into it, well, it all started back at school because I used to have my hair down to my backside, and they came around one day looking for some people to get involved in a music evening in the college. And I put my head down, and one of the brothers came in with a guy, and they said, we're looking for people to get involved in the music. Anybody here play an instrument or do anything? And I put my head down because I didn't play anything or anything like that. And a guy said, here, Doran over there, he's a great singer. I heard him singing in the Jacks. So, because it was a big echo chamber of a place. Yeah. So I went down, and it was two guys, one particularly I'm still friends with now, Philip Brown. And they said, look, there's another guitar player, we can do something on the night. And I said, oh, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, well, we could have a rehearsal. He says, we've picked one song, and it was Statesboro Blues.
Oh, yeah.
By Taj Mahal,
Taj Mahal, yeah.
And I said,
diddly,
wake up, mama. And I said, all right. And they said, we need to do 2 more songs. And the first thing out of my mouth was, let's write them. So I can't remember what they were, but it got on that night, the curtain went back, the place went wild, and I said, I love this. But there were 2 guys on that night, John Quinn and Dave Quinn. John has died recently, God have mercy on him. And they were playing, and I couldn't get over. They had 1 amp on a stool, small chair, and both of them went through the 1 amp. And John played Sylvia by Focus, Ba-da-da-da-da, and I'm standing there to the side of the stage. And they approached me afterwards and said, listen, would you be interested in forming a band? And that was it. And they called the band Denis the Menace.
All right.
And out of that, I met Peter Condell through Dave and a guy who, they had been in college in the choir college in St. Patrick's Cathedral. And Peter came down, and we used to play every Saturday on Botanic Avenue in Dave's front room. And John would open the window, and all the kids would come around and stand looking in, and John playing and me singing. And then that kind of developed from there. And then we formed the band with Dave and Peter and Paul Logan, he was a local guy as well. And Philip Brown came on board, and we started writing songs, and that became Sarsaparilla. And then we moved in. But it was strangely enough, our earlier bands, even though we were writing songs, we were very influenced by country music at the time. And straight out of school, I was in a country band.
Yeah.
And then that developed. The Neighbours, we called ourselves the Neighbours. And then Gino Beryl came on board, the great Gino Beryl. Gino died as well last year, or the year before, I think. a couple of years ago. Lord have mercy on him. And we have a guy called Bobby Robertson out of Dundalk. Bobby's still alive and still playing, I think, I hope. And that's how I kind of got. But I had cousins in Finglas. I used to go to Finglas I used to go to Finglas every summer. My mother would send me with a brown paper bag full of, as we call them, messages from my auntie.
That's right, yeah, the messages.
And I thought I was going out to the country for my holidays, out to Finglas.
Well, where were you originally from?
Well, I'm originally from Beresford Street. It's there off Church Street.
Okay.
So I would have grown up in what I in retrospect was a real melting pot for music. I mean, not too far up the road in Dorset Street, you had the meeting place.
Wow.
And I used to go to the meeting place all the time. And a friend of mine worked there, Owen Smith. He's a professor now, Professor Owen Smith. And he was doing the door for the business for years. But he was working as a barman up there. And up there, like standing in that bar, you wouldn't know who would come through the door. And like, yeah, the bands upstairs were like Freddie White and the Fake. Christy Moore was playing there. Yeah. And then like John Prine came through the door one night, and the music they were playing behind the girl, like they were playing the band, they were playing Levon Helm, they were playing all the funky stuff. And then I met Jimmy Faulkner there, and Jimmy was great.
He's brilliant, he's a great character.
Jimmy's great, and Pat played there as well, and then
Pat
of course
Farrell.
Pat Farrell played there as well, and Declan McNeilis.
Declan, yeah, Lord have mercy.
And his sister used to do the door for Christy Moore.
Yeah.
No, Christy's sister did the door. But then I met Declan's sister, and they were. And then, of course, the great Red Peters, the band was there. And then I met people like. I used to drift around, like, for example, Zero's nightclub in Mary Street.
Yeah.
And that's where I first saw in live, like, well, it wasn't the first time I saw them, but it was when they were beginning. It was the time of the Nightlife album, Tin Lizzy, and Phil Lynott, and Scott Gorham was in the band, and what's his name, the guitar player,
Brian Robson.
Brian Robson, and he had his arm in a cast.
Right. Yeah.
And that was apparently from a row.
That's right. Yeah.
But I remember, Lord,
It was a row with somebody else, was it?
Yeah.
And
I remember one night, Lord.
They were going on tour. Sorry, when they were about to go on tour, I think.
Yeah, Ollie Bourne ran Zeros, you know.
That's right.
But the band on before was Sundown, and I think Timmy Creedon or either John McCann was in the band.
I think John Chandler was in that band.
Yeah, he was, Sundown. And they played Lies by J.J. Cale, you know.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I thought, Jesus, these are great, you know.
Yeah.
I used to love that. And then over in Slattery's upstairs on other nights, like, I mean, I used to go to, like, see the Pecker Done on a Friday night, or a Monday night,
right.
you know, or Tuesday night, I think it was. And Paddy Slattery used to be there. And Paddy Slattery was great because you could play downstairs as well, you know, in the basement.
Yeah.
And that's where I saw bands like Bumper to Bumper, you know, with Tommy Moore, and they were great. And I remember Johnny Wadham used to play downstairs as well. They had a jazz night down there. So all of this was happening with about, you know, a 10-minute walk from
Dublin
my house.
It was alive.
Oh, it was very vibrant.
Yeah.
And but just harking back to when I used to go to Finglas, why I was telling you that story, it was the first time I had cousins, and they were older than me, and my cousin brought me, he was going out with a girl, and his mother said, bring him with you, because she didn't want me in the house that night. So at 11 years of age, I remember being handed a packet of chocolate eclairs just to shut up, and sitting there like a kid watching Fleetwood Mac. And I'm going, and out on the stage comes Christine McVie, Christine Perfect, if she was known then. Danny Kirwan. There was no Peter Green, unfortunately, and Mick Fleetwood. And Mick Fleetwood hadn't got an arse in his trousers. And they had asked the audience to move around to this side because there was nobody. And the bands on the night were Tara Telephone, and I did allude to it earlier on, and a very early Thin Lizzy. And Brian Downey, I always remember, had a beard down to here, you know. And it was just, I was saying, oh my God. And that just started me out. And the first album I heard in that house was Blues from Laurel Canyon, John Mayall.
Brilliant album,
And then going
Favourite.
back, this is why I'm relating all these stories, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
because they
not
keep
at all. No, it's-
And then when I went back to Zeros, or going back to Zeros, when I saw Pat Farrell on the stage, he sang The Bear. I've been living with the bear, you know, in a big house full of blues. And I said, oh yeah, I love this, you know. So there were all those things were influencing me at the time, you know. But to this day, I never thought, I would have been accepted into what I considered were the amazing echelons of what was going on at that time. Halson Street was my local church, and my mother and father were married in Halson Street Church. And I remember Noel Bridgman lived in Halson Street.
Yeah.
The great Noel Bridgman lived there. And his brother Martin, I used to have a drink with him when I was younger. You could go up to the Four Seasons in North Kingshire and see brilliant musicians, traditional musicians up there, the Kellys.
Yeah.
Like, I went to school with James Kelly. He got thrown out of a school band because he was so good. They couldn't control him. He'd play a tin whistle, he'd play a fiddle. So there was always this brilliant musical thing going on. And then... you couldn't but be subsumed into that, you know, and I loved it, and meeting those people, and not only were you getting an education in what to perform, how to perform, but you were getting an education into the music business and the way people interacted and the way people, you know, dealt with each other. It was phenomenal. And then I met people like Jimmy Gibson, who was
Jimmy was great character.
and I remember going to Jimmy's mass, and his brother officiated at it. Yeah. His brother's a priest in Gardner Street.
That's right, yeah.
And Jimmy used to always shigging.
Yeah.
And they used to have the session downstairs at Slattery's when we were playing upstairs in the business. And in between that, after that, Brendan O'Connor had come on with the ballad group. You know, after the business, and the boys would be downstairs.
That's right.
Playing, and then the boys over in the across the road in the old Crescent, Don Baker would do a session upstairs with Pat.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then I had a band. We had a band called when we had the Neighbours. I had a single out in the 80s. It was called There's a Bell, and it did really well.
Yeah.
So much so, when I was in America, I contacted my father at home, and he said, there's a check here for you for so much, 300 and something. Yeah. I said, no, you keep that, because you gave me the money to come to America, because I got a green card to work in America.
Okay.
But before I actually left to work in America, I had gotten Jimmy Faulkner into the band, and Jimmy was like, for me. Ah,
Jesus.
Jimmy for me was, you know.
Yeah.
You know, king.
Just a quick story. Jimmy, see this guitar here?
Yeah.
This is called the Big Apple Fender Stratocaster, right?
Yeah.
I bought that in America what year was it? In 1999.
Mm.
And when I came home with it, Jimmy says to me, "What's that guitar you have there? Because it's got the two Duncan Seymour humbuckers on it, you know."
Yeah.
And he said it's unusual for a Strat, you know.
Mm.
And he said, I said, just borrow it there, Jimmy, you know. He said, "Can I borrow it, you know?" Then 6 months later, I met him. I said, "Where's my guitar?" And he says, "Oh yeah. I'd like to buy that guitar off you, you know. Can you sell that guitar to me?" I said, "Oh, not really, you know."
Yeah.
You know, because it's something that it's precious to me, you know. From the way I got it, you know. Mm. And so he said, "Okay, I'll get that back to you." He had it for 15 months. But eventually got it back up. Yeah, he was a great character. He loved it though, you know.
Very funny, and he always played, you know, with the ends of the shirt down like this.
Yeah, that's really true.
And like,
yeah.
But we
it's great.
Yeah, and we sat down and we wrote a couple of songs, and I always remember. I'm sure I tell this story. I went over to his house. He was living over in Rialto. He was sleeping in the front room of his father's house, you know. And he was going to play on a Tuesday night in the meeting place with, you know, the guy that wrote Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Russian Roulette. He was an American guy. His name escapes me just off the top of my head now.
I can't.
And on the bus on the way over, he hands me an envelope and he says, "Read that." And I opened it up. And it was he was being fired from the Hard Station band, you know, from
yeah,
Paul Brady's
Paul Brady,
band.
yeah.
And I felt so disappointed for him,
Yeah.
but you know, because he was so good, you know. He was,
Yeah.
that's such
Sorry,
a great-
sorry. That's what the fella said when he fell off the train.
Yeah.
He said, it's a hard old station. That's
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that one, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But so he and we played in the Bale Booked, you know, because Bale Booked was a great venue, and Danny Tobin was in the band. So there was Jimmy, Danny, Mick O'Connor, I think, was the drummer at the time, and Dave Quinn played with us, you know, who was in the original Neighbours, and Tony Ford was there. I'd have to mention Tony. Tony died very young, you know. He was playing with us in the original when we did all the television work, you know. And I have to give a shout out to Pat Egan, because Pat Egan gave...
Pat was a legend.
Pat gave me a major foot up in the business, because what happened was we were playing in the Anglers Rest every Sunday, and he liked the band.
Yeah.
He genuinely liked us, and so he came to me one day, and in Pat's own inimitable style, said, would you like to play with Joan Armour Trading? I said, what? In the RDS. And so I played with Joan Armour Trading, and then he gave me an opportunity I'll never forget for the rest of my life. We played with the Climax Blues Band in the Bagot Inn, and I got to meet Peter Haycock, you know, the guitar player. And Peter Haycock was an incredible guitar player. He was a guitar player, you know. So I met them, and then I got support to Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jesus.
And I tell you the story about Jerry Lee Lewis because it's a funny story. We were the support band to Jerry Lewis, and we were doing our own stuff. And I peeked through the curtains, I looked out, and I turned to Peter Cadell, I said, Jesus, we're going to die here tonight. You know, I was looking out at the audience. And he says, well, you're going to have to say something. And I just, in that instant, I remembered that he hadn't turned up the year before to play there. So the minute the curtain went back, I walked to the microphone. The first thing I said was, hello, everybody. By the way, he's here. And everybody went, yeah! So they loved us after that. Grant, thanks very much for that.
Yeah, both you guys there.
Jerry Lee Lewis was a teddy boy. Like, he came out combing the hair. And his guitar player came up behind us in the green room. We were talking to the organiser, and he said, hey buddy, have you got any dollars before we start? He wanted to be paid before he even did the gig. But that was a great gig.
Chuck Berry must have given him some advice.
Well, I tell you, absolutely. Put the money in a suitcase and tell them to learn my greatest hits. Tell the support band to learn my greatest hits. But then the other great thing was, and that leads me into segues, as they say, into the Bagot Inn. Like, I mean, I'd go nearly every Monday night when I was younger. I couldn't handle the large bottles of stout, you know, to see Brush.
He was a Thursday suite, he was, wasn't he?
Well, there was a Monday night he did as well.
Yeah.
And Pat Farrell on guitar, Brush.
Yeah.
The late John, do you remember John?
John Brady,
He died on the House Road, God love him.
Yeah, great gentleman.
Oh, what a lovely guy, what a lovely guy. And Davy Gaynor and Noel Bridgman.
Oh, geez, I remember that band.
And there was a guy playing keyboard, I can't remember who it was, and when Brush would jump into one of his orations and soliloquies or whatever, you might be reading the newspaper when you're ready, Brush. Reading the newspaper, and the audience would be enthralled by. Yeah. But Brendan, to go back again, I'm jumping all over the place.
That's okay,
because all the memories are coming back. Brendan was if you recall, when Brendan got married, there was a story, there's a bomb underneath the car. Do you remember that time? There was a bomb scare in Halson Street.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And there was a carriage or something Bruce was in, and there was supposed to be a bomb underneath it and all that. But I was living, and then up the road, as I said, you had Synod Place as well, where I have to mention the Quigley family. Like
the Quigley,
Like Liam Quigley around the rock shop down off Cape Street. And was so good to us.
Yeah, and it was great, And Fran.
And Fran.
Yeah, he had a band centre, hadn't he, back in
Paddy,
the day?
who's still alive. And then they had a brother Peter, who was a barman upstairs in the Agrat, and he kind of got us in. And we went in as the neighbours on a Friday night. And then Mary Coughlin went in on a Tuesday night. Don went in on a Saturday night. And it really developed that as a gig, you know. And Don was going there for a long time until he moved across the road into his regular gig in the Olympia. But what happened was, to go back to the Jimmy story, Jimmy said to me, Dennis, please don't go, please don't. But I went off to America, and it didn't work out. I had a green card, but it just didn't work out because the girl I was going out with at the time, she had a car accident, and I came home. And when I came home, I was here and I went down one day down to Slatters in Cable Street to see another variation of the business. And Jerry Moore was singing.
Jerry, I remember Jerry.
Big Jerry, yeah.
I remember him actually. He was a cratty guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He lived up there at Bishop Street.
Yeah.
But he always said one of the funniest things to me that put me in my place. He says, Dennis, there's 3 great singers in this country. You, me, and Rob Strong. But not in that order.
He was a character, wasn't he?
Oh.
Yeah.
But anyway, he always said to me, you got me sacked out of the business. And I didn't really.
Yeah.
But what happened was I went to see the business and I was standing there one day and because I'd been going to see them before I went to the States and all. And Pat, there was always a big, drum solo at every gig, And Pat said to me, would you be interested in joining the band? I said, what? So I was shocked, So I ended up singing with the band, and that's how I really got to know Jerry, whom I'm currently working with, Jerry Henry.
And
Jerry's phenomenal.
Fabulous guitar.
And now he's
a gentleman to boot as well.
Yeah, and he's really making a name for himself now in production and all.
That's right.
He's working with Audrey
Bridgman.
Noel's daughter, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely.
And but even then in the business, we did a few original songs. I know we wrote a song called Little Misunderstood, and Pat was singing a song he wrote called Ship of Fools. And then Randall Rainwater, Jerry left the band and Randall Rainwater came in. And Randall was a total revelation for the band because he brought this country type, he brought a kind of a ZZ Top. Early ZZ Top. Before they got, how will I put it?
Yeah.
Before they got commercialised, as it were.
Totally commercialised.
Yeah, and then, so he'd sing a song like Fool for My Stockings, but I loved the lap steel. He played the lap steel, and it was phenomenal. So, I was there for about 3.5 years with that band, and then we funnily enough, Lord of Mercy, every time we used to see Pat.
What was the members at that time?
There were John McCann, Paul Bourne, Pat, Randall, and myself.
Yeah.
And I always remember he used to say, Pat, he'd say to me, Des, what are you doing now? I said, well, since you sacked me. And he used to break his heart laughing, he used to love that, And God bless him, like when he was running his radio station, he was playing a lot of the stuff we're doing now in Crazy Crow,
Something near at FM, he was there.
And he was saying, I'll have to get you out for an interview. It never happened, unfortunately. But he was playing some of our stuff off the album, and he was very complimentary, and it was great. And then, when I finished with that, I didn't know what I was going to do, and then I was approached by a relation of Jerry's brother-in-law, Martin Dainham.
Okay.
And Martin asked me to join this band. They'd been playing gigs around, and that did well for a while. It was a covers band, and I was in that for a while, and then I kind of drifted off, and then the reason why the Neighbours broke up, Peter Condell went off to play with Rusty O'Hale and Mick Hanley and did very well, and then he ended up in the Flat Cowboys as well. We'd gotten another player in Dick Doyle. Dick Doyle was playing for us for a while, and we did quite a bit of work out in Leopardstown. Tony Daly had the nightclub out there, and he had some great live bands out there. And then, so we kind of drifted away. I was doing the covers thing and going about it, making a few bob, trying to make a few bob. And then Peter went and joined the Flat Cowboys. And then we came back and we formed a band called The Researchers, and that was going. We used to play the International Bar in Wicklow Street. But we were always into writing.
Yeah.
But nothing ever, we never recorded anything. Recorded stuff for ourselves.
Yeah.
It was never an album or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of drifted out of the business then for a while. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing.
Yeah. You had to live as well.
Yeah, so I started. I had worked in the civil service for a while, so I tried to get back into the civil service. I eventually did, but then I retired very early, and I started driving a taxi.
Yeah.
And I was in one of these malls. That's it. I'm finished, with this business. And as you, I don't know if there's any musician never goes through that.
They all do.
And if I haven't mentioned anybody that I've forgotten, forgive me. But I was always in now. I did a few jingles and stuff. I was in a band called with another with a chap named Peter Rycroft and Stephen McGowan.
Oh, Stephen McGowan. I know Stephen.
Steve,
he's a lovely blues player.
Stephen's a great guitar player.
Yeah, a country player too. He can play all that. Well, I played with a band with him years back as well.
He can play anything. He was in the Memories as well, I think, and he had been playing with the Memories. But we had a covers band there. Paul O'Keefe. It was Paul O'Keefe.
Oh, that's Steve McGowan, was it? Sorry. Which one am I getting mixed up with?
No,
I think the Peter McGowan. Sorry.
Stephen McGowan. And
I know the guy you're talking about. I've seen some of his stuff.
Yeah, he's a great player. Yeah. And so we had that band going for a while, and then I kind of slipped out of that, and then I was working with a little 3-piece called Cover Up, and the guitar player, he was the keyboard player. He did DJ as well, so we were doing a lot of weddings, and then I kind of drifted out of that, because he went into photography. Alan went into photography, and it's doing pretty well at it, from what I can gather. And I just kept writing myself, writing songs and all the rest. And then I recently went through, as far as I could go through, with the litigation with Willie Nelson over a song he had on an album that I had recorded years earlier. Yeah, and it was called "Don't Touch Me There,"
Yeah.
And I wrote the song and we recorded it. We never released it.
Yeah.
And I'm running on a treadmill in the gym, and I'm listening to Willie Nelson's latest album, and on comes the song, "Don't Touch Me There." And I said, "Oh no!" I nearly fell off the. So I mean, I couldn't contest it. Like it would have been so expensive to contest.
Yeah.
But that'll be. I'm thinking of doing a country album, as well as working with. Crazy Crow, and I'd love to do a country album, and put that on it.
I love the country thing as well. Yeah, you're a man after me on there.
I'm very friendly with a really nice player, Mick O'Doherty. He moved from.
I know Mick.
He moved over to.
Lovely guitar player too.
And I was having a drink in the Brian Brew up in Glasgow one day, and he walked in. He says, I was told I could find you in here. He moved up to Dalcassian Downs, up near where I live, around the corner actually. So I see a lot of Mick, and he's playing. He was playing with the Spirit Riders.
Yeah, that's right.
And now he does a bit of work. They play the first Monday of every month in Drogheda. Mm-hmm. They have a band up there. Custer's Last Band, I think.
Oh, right, very good.
Yeah, great name. Mick is great for names.
Yeah.
But how I got involved now with Crazy Crow, I hope I've covered enough.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the taxi one day on the quays. I'm being dramatic about this because I couldn't get over how true a story it is. And it was very early in the morning, and I was looking down towards the customs house, and the sun was coming up. And I said, I have to give this up, which is the taxi. I have to give this up. So I went and did it for a few hours, and about 12 o'clock in the day, the phone rang, and it was Paul Bourne. He said, Denis, we have a band. We had a girl singer. He said, but it didn't work out. We're rehearsing down in Chapel, is it? But we just need somebody to come down and sing a few songs with us just to keep us going until we find a singer. And I said, oh yeah, I'll come down and give you a dig out. I went down, first rehearsal, sang a few songs with them, and they just were, do you want the job? And I said, well, I don't mind. Yeah. And I said, listen, if we write our own songs, I'd be mad into it. And that was it, and we just went on from there. And of course, since we've recorded 2 albums, we've represented Ireland at the first, I better qualify this, first band from the Republic of Ireland to represent at the Republic of Ireland at the International Blues Festival in Malmö in Sweden. That's in Mary, the great Mary Stokes and Brian and her band have since represented Ireland as well. So it was great to get that opportunity and to put ourselves, Ireland on the map, and to be the first to do it, for the blues in Ireland.
Yeah, it's incredible because it's like...
And I love all that. I love meeting people away.
Yeah, yeah.
And flying our flag away,
Yeah.
Because, we do have great musicians in this country,
There's not enough gigs, though.
Well, this is it.
Where's that? What happened there? What's your take on that?
My take on that was... In the 70s and indeed into the 80s when we were playing down the Earl Grattan, we were getting £4 and £5 at the door.
Yeah.
And people were paying it.
Yeah.
Come see. But what happened was they started putting in bands and paying them a minimal fee and do no cover charge at the door.
Yeah.
And then I remember playing a place one night and the place was hopping and the guy said, we can't have you back. I said, what's wrong? They weren't drinking. They were dancing all the time. So, this type of thing was happening. And I was saying, oh, yeah. And it was tough. And there was the gigs, like even now, even after COVID, people are saying, a lot of bands, like, I know there were a couple of bands who were on the verge before COVID and literally went off a cliff at COVID. Just didn't get back. Couldn't get back. And... we were doing very well in the Patriots Inn, for example. I'm just speaking from... I'm sure everybody out there has their own story.
Yeah.
And we were doing... And after COVID...
yeah, nothing.
No gigs in the Patriots.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, this is strange, we're doing the first Sunday of every month in the Phibsborough House in Phibsborough. And Jim up there, he runs a great shop. And there's a fantastic room out the back there. We played there. We don't do a cover charge. We pass the teapot. We have this huge teapot.
Right, okay.
We pass the teapot. Yeah. And believe it or not, just before COVID, we were to start that gig. And we started back after COVID on the exact same date. It was the same date as we were to play before we went into it. Now it's going really well for us there now.
Yeah.
But that's all we're really doing. Like we're playing the first Sunday of every month. We're writing away. We're keeping it going, and we're trying to keep the blues and the blues and beyond going. You know what I mean?
It's so difficult.
It is difficult. It is difficult. But like
from what it used to be, it's just like it just seems the venues of that there. I mean, ever since JJ's went, JJ's was obviously like the place.
Yeah, it was, and I remember playing in JJ's, and again, it was. I always felt privileged to play in JJ's. I always felt privileged to do Slattery's, and it's going to be a great privilege to play in the Olympia now for Pat's Remembrance Night on the 6th of June. But the reason why I bring that up as well, because you related to all of the people we've lost down the years. This is what's happening to our scene as well. It's great to see there are younger people coming to our gigs now. And young kids loving the idea of the guitar. Incredible players. What's that young girl from Donegal now? Waving the flag for the blues. Fantastic. Muireann is her name. I think Muireann. And she's a fabulous player. Forgive me for forgetting your name. But all of these great players. But me personally, But for me, performing, I always love, to get people involved and, to say to people, come to the gigs, or what are you doing? And I'd love, even to this day, I was helping a friend of mine recently, June Carras. She's the eldest, and she won't mind me saying that, in her class, and she was up in the college, Ballyfermot. We were up in that college up in Meath Street. It's been run by Paul Moore, Paul Moore, the bass player, Bubba Moore. He's running the scene up there, and she had to do a showcase for her graduation in her music field, and she asked me to come along and play harmonica on it. And of course, I was the oldest man in the room, but and on the stage. But all these young kids, aspiring young musicians,
great.
It's fantastic, It's fantastic, and of course,
I just think like Dublin itself as a major European city. You'd imagine there'd be more kind of blues clubs.
But funnily enough, I wanted to run the Philsborough House as a blues club, called the Blue Room.
Yeah.
I mean, there were always places that you could, but there's so many things that have killed a lot of venues now. Like, I mean, you try and start up a club, have you got insurance, And you have to, be insured, and then you security, and then all of that, all of the overheads.
Yeah.
Have killed a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I remember down in Zeros, like, for God's sake,
yeah.
they had to provide food, and Ollie Byrne had a gas stove doing burgers on a pan out the back, Do you want a bit of bread with that? And an old watery curry.
And a bottle of vinegar.
And the doorman with his foot on the bloke's head, holding his arm, going, go on there, all right, go ahead,
Yeah, jeez, I remember.
That was incredible, but those were in the days where a fella just gave you a dig and that was the end of it. Like, but nowadays, there's so much, and the drug scene has, gone off the wall in this town. It's gone off the wall in every town.
But I mean, I just still think that there could be blues clubs, people to invest in them, and like put us on the international stage, because the musicians here are fabulous. Like, you're just saying, young musicians coming up and all, but they've nowhere to play, Dennis. That's the problem, and they can't. Like, what did how did they get out there?
I remember,
and do anything?
I have to tell you this story. I remember when I was very young, and I went over to Moran's Hotel.
That was a great venue, that was.
Right, and it was lunchtime, and I could hear sounds coming out. It was around the middle of the day.
Yeah. And
I went into the venue, and there was, remember now, was the Bell Brush Band rehearsal.
Yeah.
And it was Eric Bell.
That's right.
Brush ears with the long locks.
Yeah.
Timmy Creed.
Yeah.
And Paul Bell that went on to do the
keyboard player. Yeah.
And Paul Bell was I forgot to mention this. God forgive me. One of the very first bands I was in that I got off was with Paul Bell.
Okay.
And we were called the Bates Band.
Right.
And we won a competition. This is when I was rubbing shoulders with the elite out around Donnybrook, in a rugby club in Donnybrook. And I thought, this is it. Niall McSweeney was the guitar player. And we won this competition. And we played support to the Boomtown Rats in Moran's Hotel.
Oh, good way. Yeah.
And I'll never forget, that was brilliant. Now, Paul went off and he had a band called 01 in the UK. And he was playing, and Paul has some great stories from the music. But he's back home, he's living in Wexford again.
Oh,
he's a life coach now.
Yeah.
And he's doing very well, and he's a great guy. But Paul and I always had a bond, but we haven't seen each other for a long time. But he was always he was one of the first people outside of the circle I was moving at the time to say, I think
I done a gig with him once in the Revolution Club, the community players. Yeah,
he came up to a gig I was doing in the Spinning Wheel in Mary Street.
Yeah.
With Martin Bogle, do you remember Martin?
Oh, Martin, the manager, of course you do, yeah.
And the two of them came to the top of the stairs and I was playing the band and we took a break and they offered me a job and wanted me to come. They were forming a super band and they wanted me to be the singer. And I was like, oh God, I couldn't do that, me, And I didn't,
Jesus.
But I could have. And life is full of
full of course.
But that's I hope that doesn't sound all over the place.
No, that's the way it was.
But that's the way. But then, of course, during that time, when we were starting out as the Neighbours, we got support to Bagatelle in Toners. Bagatelle were playing downstairs in Toners, and they used to play in the Mississippi Rooms in Bray.
All right.
And they wanted us to play support. And by the way, I remember playing support to Step Aside.
Yeah.
And Step Aside for me.
They were a great band as well. Mick O'Hagan, wasn't he in that band?
Mick O'Hagan was later in the band.
Mick was a great character, wasn't he? Lovely guy.
Brenny Bonas.
Yeah.
And you're leading me beautifully. Mick was singing on in the National Song Contest one year with a song that his brother wrote.
Sean.
Sean.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, what happened was I'd been asked by Liam Riley to do backing vocals.
Oh, right.
For a song for the National Song Contest. Now, he'd asked me to do backing vocals for the previous year when he was he sang in Zagreb, Meet Me in Paris on a Champs-Élysées night. And I'd become very friendly with Liam, and so I did the one and we won. He won it.
Yeah.
So I sang backing vocals in Rome. It was a great experience.
Ah, jeez.
And it was great to go, you know, and meet people. And I subsequently met Pat Kenny through that, and then I was.
I've seen that clip on Pat Kenny.
Yeah, we got out the back, and we did "She Loves Jazz." We actually had that song in the Dunleary Song Contest.
Okay.
And that's how I got friendly with Larry Gogan, who, Lord of Mercy, who was wonderful for music and a great guy, great person, and then that kind of got us into the kind of people from RTE start recognising, and then we got on to Nighthawks, then, you know, with that band, and that was Peter Condell, Mick O'Connor, Dave Quinn, and myself. Just a three-piece, and we were writing songs. We used to rehearse 3-4 nights a week. Yeah. Down in Paddy Dunning's old place, and Paddy's gone on to greater things now, running the museum in Temple Bar now. But we were doing all that, and then that just went by the wayside. Then, you know, people moved on. Mick went on to play with a band called the Fashions. They were called. Dave did a stint with Don Baker for a while. But the boys, believe it or not, Peter and Dave and Philip Brown and Paul Logan, they still get together and play and write. They do that down in the church, St. Mickens, you know, where the down at the tomb where the leather nuns are down. There's two St. Mickens. There's, you know, the St. Mickens in Church Street, the St. Mickens in Halton Street. So they're still doing a bit. They're still playing away. I was down with them a couple of times. I've written a few songs with them, and haven't been there in a while. And I spoke. We meet every year. Christmas, you know. Great.
So anyway, I'm going to bring it back just to finish off with let's talk a little bit more about Crazy Crow, because I was so impressed with this band. It's really so tight. It's like it's really good. It's up there with the best of them. I really think so. You know, really and truly. I remember John McCann telling me he went to see us in Gibney's once. He called in. He said, "Do you want to go and see this band, Bren?" He said, "Like, it'll knock you out," you know. And they did. You know. Well, brilliant.
I spoke to John since, you know, on a number of occasions, and his brother comes down as well, and his wife, Owen. First and foremost, they're three consummate musicians, and the telepathy that's going on is off the wall. It's just
cut the judge him.
And like as they say about the greats Becker and Fagan and Steely Dan, we can finish somebody else's sentence. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? If somebody says something, we can finish it. Sometimes. But Jerry is a phenomenal player. He's world class, as far as I'm concerned.
Without a doubt.
Eric Coates is now in the band, and Eric Coates is an incredible bass player. He's extremely musical. Right? And Jeff Kirk is as solid as a rock. Jeff is from... he lives in Sandymount, or he said if he's looking for a tradesman, he lives in Rigsend. But he's a brilliant drummer, and we don't rehearse as often as we used to, and we meet every time we come down on a Sunday. We get together, we talk about a song, we start playing it. Like recently we did that song, Can't Find My Way Home. And we said, do you want to try that? And we went down on Sunday, played it, and played it live. That's how tight this band is. Now, we're going back into rehearsals again because we've some new songs. But let me tell you, Brendan, and I'm not being in any way egotistical about this or over the top, the amount of material we have is just, Jerry is always saying, Dennis, stop. We have to stop. We just have to stop. Because he'll send me, what he does, he sends me, he'd send me 5 or 6. I could show you them on the phone. 5 or 6 ideas that he has.
Yeah.
And I'd say, Jerry, just give me a title for each one. And I will sit down and I'll write the lyric. Or I'll have the lyric for them. Now, I've been writing lyrics for years, from school days.
Yeah.
And it's like any apprenticeship even. You acquire certain things and you learn a trade.
Yeah.
And so I'll just ask them, what have you got in your mind? What was the idea? Like he came up with me, said, Dennis, I see these tiny hands. It's about war children that are suffering because of war. This was 4 or 5 years ago, before anything like of the magnitude of what we're seeing now. And tiny hands, okay. And I sat down and I wrote this lyric for it. And it's a phenomenal song now. People love it. It's called Tiny Hands. And it's about children who suffer in any war.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of other songs. And then Jerry had spoke to me about a trip he had to Auschwitz, and I'd been there myself just for and he gave me a line, and we wrote another song of that. So we're constantly, we have our moments, you know. I don't know what human beings don't, but particularly musicians have your moments. But I mean, I always describe this band is a phenomenal engine, and each of the components in it are extremely important to it. But I'm there, I play the harmonic in the band, I sing, but to stand with those musicians and the groove and the tightness is just, it's incredible, you know. It's a great band, Crazy Crow, you know. It's one that probably, and I know, but it's probably the best band I've ever played in.
Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous band. It's really, and I just want to say, it's just to say that if anybody should really go and just check this band out, because it's well worth checking them out. Believe me, if you like the blues and rock and roll music, this is the band to go and see. Crazy Crow, which is playing in.
We're playing in the Phibsborough House the first Sunday of every month, and we're on stage around 7:30. We finish around 9:30, 10:15. There's no cover charge. We depend, and I have to tell you, and I want to say it publicly now, if you don't mind, our supporters to date were phenomenal to us when we were going to Rome with their generosity, or when we were going to Malmo with their generosity, and their support is just incredible, and they're lovely people. Even the management in the pub say, you attract a wonderful odd. It's a lovely place. The beer's not there. The beer is good, the music is even better, and the atmosphere is phenomenal, and the way people have taken to the band is just incredible. You know, and for any other pubs looking for us out there, we'll come and do it, you know, but people, they're just loving it.
Okay.
They're just loving it.
Well, that's it, folks. For all things Irish and rock and roll, Denis Doran. Thanks, Denis.
Thanks, Brendan. Thanks a million. Thanks for having me out here.
You're welcome.
That was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant.